Hello and welcome back to Marine for TCG. My name is Joe. Drink of the day is coconut water with extra coconut. And the final product that's released this weekend is ST29. This leader seems pretty relevant for the format, at least from early online results. So we've got two of these. I'm going to be opening them, showing you what's inside, how you can upgrade this deck to be more meta relevant, and we'll see what alt arts we get in those bonus packs. So this is the newest starter deck coming out for the One Piece card game. It's the starter deck Egghead, and the leader is Luffy. They love printing these Luffy leaders. So we're going to open it up, show you what you get inside, and then we'll go through the cards briefly, and then I will have a deck profile towards the end. We'll also talk about some cards that you could maybe replace some of the cards in my deck profile if you can't afford them, don't want to buy them, so on and so forth. So you're going to get a little bit of paper that teaches you how to play the game, and then you will get the deck. And I think the thing that, at least when I watch these deck opening videos, the main thing I'm interested in is the counts of the cards inside. There we go, and we're in Hacker Man. So on the end, you're obviously going to get your 10 Don cards. If you're a brand new player, you will need 10 Don cards to play the game. And this is the leader Luffy. This, when attacking, don't worry too much about that. That's very nice at the end of the game, but the main thing here is your 6 life, and that's what people underestimated when this guy was initially released. Just how powerful having 1 extra life can be. And the first card, and one of the best cards in the deck for sure, is the Sanji. It's a nice searcher, decent trigger body, stat line is fine, and you do get 2 of those, and that is staple in the yellow Luffy deck. Going to try and make sure all the cards are in shot at the same time. Next up, you got the Zoro. This is a bit more contentious. The use case for this card is a little bit more mixed. It's very nice for dealing with your opponent's board. Often on your 6th on turn, which is when this guy comes down, your opponent isn't going to have a tapped character. There's a lot of decks that don't play on 4, and those that do, like Boa, often you might not want to attack them. Although in yellow Luffy, you can afford to take that life usually. So the Zoro is not always an inclusion in this deck, but not a bad card nonetheless. And it's also an introduction to the new Rush character mechanic. This Usopp is not very good. However, you do get 4 of him. He's just not very good. And a lot of the cards in this deck are simply not very good. Kaku can get a bit bigger, but when is the number of your life cards equal to or less, right? We're based around having a lot of lives. So I really don't know what they were going for with this one. That's actually the first time I've read that card since it was revealed. This Jimbo's pretty solid, and of course that is one of the 2 ofs in the deck. Just has a trigger play. Nothing too funky, but this popping out of life is quite nice, and we have extra life, so extra chances for him to appear. We've got a vanilla 2k Stussy. Nothing funky there. This Chopper is also not very good, but you only get 2 of these. Not really sure why you only get 2 of them. Also, only get 2 of the Nami. So a lot of cards in this deck that you're only getting 2 of. In a lot of decks, it's like 3. You get the 2 SRs, you only get 2 of, and then 1 other card. But it seems like there's a lot of 2 ofs. They really want you to buy 2 of this deck. Nami, it's okay for some removal protection for your Egghead stuff, but it's only KO. It's not removal. So, like bounce or bot deck. So, she's not that good. 4 copies of Frankie. He is, again, another vanilla 2k. You could play this in Vegapunk, I guess, but I think there's already a Scientist one who is better. Little Chump Blocker in Brook, 4 copies of that. 4 copies of the 1 Don Luffy. Gives a rested Don to your Luffy leader, realistically, every turn. Not bad for the Ace matchup. If you do expect a lot of Ace, you could tech this in to your yellow Luffy deck. We get 2 of the Robin, of course. All the good cards you get 2 of. And Chopper and Nami. But yeah, this Robin is very, very good in the deck. It's a 2k, it's a blocker, it pops out of life. What more could you really ask for? This is a very solid card. I'm going to need a bit more room here. We've got 4 of this Lucci. This is bad. 4 of the Raw Heat Strike. And this event isn't bad, because it can, in theory, get you out of 2 swings. But Luffy really doesn't want to be at 1 or less life. So I think where this may make its home is in Red Yellow Bonnie. That deck generally just likes to sit at 1. Maybe also in an L. We'll have to see about that one. But I think this is solid card, just not in this deck, which is strange. We've got 2 copies of the Kizaru unblockable event. Yellow has been hankering for unblockable for quite a long time. This is absolutely staple in the deck, so of course it's a 2-off. Very amusing, and then this card is terrible. Lie, Death, Lion Song, this is just bad. At least from what I've seen so far, so... That's what you're going to get in the deck. Sorry about the presentation. My camera is a little lower than I thought it was going to be. I've not done one of these before. Next time maybe we'll go a bit higher. But that's what you're going to get in the deck. And now we'll skip ahead to the deck profile of a constructed version of this. Next up, we've got the deck breakdown portion of the video. And this is going to be the same list that I showed off in my gameplay video. So if you want to see some gameplay with this exact list, check out my gameplay video. That will be linked at the end of this one. So, Monkey D. Luffy, we play a lot of trigger cards because we love getting triggers. So, going with 4 of the Lilith. This is from OP13. Very, very cheap card. Searches top 4 for your triggers. Very nice for your consistency. And then on we'll go through your curve first. I do like going second at least at the moment with this build. And on Fordon, the Sanji from the deck. Top 4 search of a Straw Hat Crew. Very good card. The alternate Fordon play I have is Kikunojo. She has a very annoying on KO, and also is a nice big trigger body. 4/6, great stat line. Gives you a heal when she goes down, and if this is just in your life, you can trigger her out and play her for free, which is brilliant. On 6, we have 4 of the 6-cost Robin. This is from OP09. Oh, Kikunojo is from OP06, but she is very, very cheap. She had a starter deck print. Robin from OP09. This is also a pretty cheap card, only a rare. But this is very, very nice for your aggression on curve. If you're into a deck, especially another yellow deck where trashing life is just even better value, this Robin, you can't go wrong. Really nice into Emu as well. And also Straw Hat Crew searchable. So I would be playing 4 of the Robin always. Alternate 6 on turn. What if your Robin is not live? If you don't have it, well, we could play Kuma. Kuma gives you a heal. On KO also gives you a heal. You can play this late game, not even on curve. You can play this later on, just to buy yourself another turn. And I am running 3 copies of the Kuma. Fee's too expensive for you because this card, this is the alt art, but the regular art of this is currently going for around £30 in the UK. So if you can't afford this, I will have some alternate suggestions after we talk through the whole list. So I've got 3 of the Kuma, because you don't always want this. You prefer the Robin, mostly, but Kuma, nice backup play. Also got 2 copies of Nami. Removing 5s isn't as relevant now as it used to be, but still this card sometimes comes up. It's extra searchable off your Sanji, also off your Lilith. So I am running this at 2 copies. Now in terms of boss monsters, I have 3 of the Captain Kid. On play, this can trash one of your opponent's life cards. Again, with this deck, I want to be as aggressive at trashing my opponent's life as possible. Kid is great, and then when your opponent's at 2 or less at the end of your turn, you get to draw 1, trash 1, get a bit of cycle out extra copies of Robin that are no longer live. Extra copies of Kid if your opponent doesn't have any lives left. And just extra bricks that you don't need. So I've got 3 copies of Kid. I'd love a 4th of the Kid and also this next card, Bonnie. But I was running a few extra spicy techs in this build, so space is tight. And like I say, 3 of the Bonnie. This is your best top end. Burns your opponent's life, has rush, has a trigger, so it's searchable off Lilith, which is great. You want to see 1 of these pretty much every game. You don't often want to see more than 1, but this is the perfect play on 10 Don in not every situation, but many situations. This is a very, very good play. Now, in terms of 2Ks, I could only find 2 of these in my bulk, but you definitely want to run 4 of this Usopp. Not only is he searchable off both Lilith and Sanji, but the trigger on this guy is bonkers. Gives you plus 2k for the whole of your opponent's turn, making their subsequent attacks much easier to counter. But that 2k buff lasts until the end of your turn, so you get to attack with that 2k buff as well, which is crazy. So I'd definitely be on 4 of the Usopp. I know I've thrown loads of these away. Concerning. Also on 4 of the Robin, it's a trigger blocker. We talked about this in the deck opening portion of the video. This is just a 4 of. This can absolutely save your game when your opponent's going for lethal, to just get a blocker out of nowhere. Now, one of the 2 spicy techs, which this is definitely not a mandatory include, and this might not even be the correct include in this list, but Kami can be nice into some event-heavy decks like Emu and Mihawk. forcing them to take more aggressively so you can burn them to 0, and then try and push through with that unblockable event, which we are playing. However, if you don't like this Kami, I will have some suggestions after we talk about the whole list. 2 copies of Jinbei. It's a trigger body. Talked about this one. It doesn't do anything particularly funky, but it's searchable off Sanji and Lilith and can sometimes just be a guy. Finally, events. 2 copies of the 0 cost event. We do run a decent amount of bricks. Some of these events coming up sort of turn into bricks. And the trigger, you never know. The trigger can win your games. So I'm on 2 of the 0 cost. And then I'm on 4 of the Flame Dragon King. A lot of people think this card is terrible. A lot of people think this card is win more. I've been enjoying it at the minute. I think it makes the deck a lot more interesting, at least. So even if it's not that good, I actually really enjoy this one. This card's quite expensive, so if you don't want to shell out for these, just don't buy them. Bulk up your copies of some of your other cards. I'd increase Bonnie to 4, Kuma to 4. Although I suppose if you don't want to buy this, you probably don't want to buy this. You can increase your Captain Kid, increase your Nami, maybe run a couple extra 2Ks, or even try out some other options like the ones we'll talk about in a minute. And finally, 3 of the Kiza events. This is non-negotiable. You need to run this card. I think at least 2 is mandatory. I think 3 is also is fine. So that's the deck. What about some replacements? Well, if you can't afford Kuma, because I wouldn't blame you, some alternatives you could try the 7 cost Mum. Definitely worse, but realistically, this does just provide the heal. Your opponent's probably not going to choose to trash their own life. They'll probably just give you the heal. She is, however, a brick, doesn't have counter, similar stat line, and doesn't have that crazy onco of the Kuma. So I do think Mum is a lot worse than Kuma, but she is a suitable alternative. And also 6 cost Mum, another decent option. This one has the same stat line as Kuma, doesn't have any counter, but this one does sort of force aggression. So I think of the 2 Mums, I would prefer 6 Mum, because it forces more aggression. And the only reason I'm... if we could run like 6 Robins, I probably would. So I think this Mum does have a little bit of merit. Another package that some people enjoy in this deck is the 7 cost Stussy. If you were going to play this Stussy, she can play out a trigger card with cost of 5 or less. I'd definitely look to increase your copies of the Nami, and I'd also potentially look to play this card, S-Snake. This can freeze one of your opponent's characters, which is nice for slowing them down. And if you have more time, that means more kids, more Bonnies, what a treat. Playing the Stussy into the S-Snake is a very nice defensive player, actually. You get a big blocker, you get 2 ladies on the board, and you get to freeze one of your opponent's 6 or lesses. Not too bad. This wasn't what I was playing in my build in the video, but there are some people who are having good success with builds like this. Finally, a couple other 2Ks. Zeus is always an option if you don't like the Kami. If you think it's bait, if you think it's troll. Zeus, not too bad. Can remove things like Marco, 4 cost Cavendish. If you play into Bonnie, green Bonnie, this can remove things like 5 cost Cavendish and Carrot, which is very efficient. And he's just a decent 2K. And of course, we're playing yellow. We have a million lives. You could indeed play Bedge. This can be a game-winning trigger, but of course you're not going to play him as a body. Lastly, a couple of events. You'll Frighten Me, not going to be live very much because, again, we have a lot of lives. It's going to be a while till we're at 2 or less. But a decent defensive option if you want one. And also, Blaze Slice can make your Emu matchup a little bit better. Because in those games where you aren't able to get them to 0, this can be able to rest the Walkyrie. And this is not only good into Emu, you can rest the Boa blocker into Boa. You can rest the Marco blocker into Ace. It's not a bad card, just not one I included because I think the unblockable does a good enough job of this. Finally, if you hate fun, you could play the Thriller Bark package. Some people really like to play these Thriller Bark cards like Perona and Moria in everything. And there's no doubt that when you have 6 lives, you're going to get a lot of triggers. But for my money, if you want to play this, just play Black Yellow Moria. Do yourself a favor. Play the leader that can actually interact with these cards. If you're playing Yellow Luffy, I think you're much better off leveraging the benefits that this guy has, mainly this 6 lives, into being far more aggressive with burn effects, as opposed to just playing a bunch of 5Ks that all they do is get you hard starved. Because starving yellow decks is that's the typical strategy, but because this guy has so many lives, it makes it harder to starve him because he can just burn yours with go Robin into Kid into Bonnie. That's pretty good. But if you start cutting your copies of these and including a bunch of Thriller Bark stuff, they're just going to attack your board and you are going to get starved. And then it becomes more difficult to activate your Kizu event. So that's why I'm not playing the Thriller Bark build. But I know some people do, and some people will have success at their locals and flagship tournaments out in Japan with the Thriller Bark build. Finally, I know you've been waiting for this one. We got a couple of packs. The 2 bonus packs in this deck. Let's see what alt-arts we can get. I'm hoping for the leader, of course. You know, I collect my leaders. But we'll see what ones we can get. Oh. Well, that's a Brook. That's not a great one. But, you know, he is a little chump blocker. We've got a Frankie, Vanilla 2K. And a Robin. That's one of the better ones for sure. Robin, very popular character. And this card is very good in the deck. Let's see. Can we get the leader in the second pack? Can we get it? Well, it looks like we've got another Robin. I've been spoiled on that one a little bit. But I'm pretty pleased with that. 2 Robins out of 2 decks. Not too bad. Stussy. No leader, but we do get the 1-cost Luffy. Not too bad. Not too bad. Hey, 3 of the 6 being playable. I'll take that. Shame about these ones. They are not very good cards, but that's okay. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you are planning on building this deck, good luck with your pulls on the alt-arts. If you pull that leader, that can probably pay for a lot of your upgrades. I think this is a very solid deck for beginners, but also just solid in the meta in general, and I do expect to see some results from Yellow Luffy. Again, if you want to see some gameplay, check out my Yellow Luffy video. That is linked on your screen now. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.